Hey, welcome to another live stream with the Mohawk Forex group. Live true scalping on 3-minute time frames. No BS, no messing around, no bullshit top-down analysis and all that. We've got an axe trading system here that gets us in and out trades during volatile periods, i.e. now, Russia, Ukraine, China, Fed decision, retail sales, opens. Amazing. This is a prime time for true scalpers to get involved. And so today, yeah, we're going to be looking at gold and US30. We'll have a quick look at a few other things as people ask me to. But yeah, so far so good. We've taken some nice trades this morning already on the DAX first thing and got some nice winners on European and London Open, as you can see. Focusing on gold. Remember, he's just backing off from a 1922, breaking our trend line here. We could buy on a sell while I was just making my coffee. And also we're looking at US30, which is continuing to rise, going against the trend. Do we expect everything to dip? You can see there's a nice bull signal we got from our indicator. We took a nice little bear signal for 100 points, and then we took another 100 on the bull. And now we're creeping up that 3903 level with heavy resistance. So see what happens next 7-8 minutes to see if we're going to take a sell. Look how much green there's been. There's been a pullback, caught many people out. Obviously, we're trying to sell. Nation of the moment. Also, because you've got a lot of different news events spinning around. Retail sales, you know, might not do anything. Usually they do, but obviously we're in a different situation at the moment. All high impact, export import prices come well. Then we're going to look at the NAHB housing index, which again at the moment might not do anything. And then obviously the big one later on is the Fed interest rate decision, as they're saying about 7 rate hikes being priced into the market. All the projections and everything all here. So plenty of news on the economic calendar, but obviously a lot of talk has been about China. And overnight, the Asian stock market's pulled back from massive losses to about 25% gains. Hong Kong, China, and obviously it looks like US30's kind of followed suit. Now we're at a suitable heavy resistance level where we've got a trend line cross here, wedge. We're looking to take some nice sells on the open. Taking sells on the open 30, then might be looking to bounce back buy on gold. Breakout zone at the moment goes to 25 on the RSI. Then we're looking for more sells. This wick to clear. We're more than. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on Bloomberg. We'll just turn it on as well, that in the background. We're watching what's going on in the world, as we have to do.
Do you buy that, given that we cannot,
like I say, we've got the news coming up in 5 minutes time. It's retail sales news, and usually we go the reverse. With gold, we'll usually trade the way off it. Very, very risky, very, very volatile at the moment, because we know things are going against most people's TAs a lot of the time. Our axe has been pretty good actually. So we're going to see. We'll let the news play out and see what move we get. I'm going to go in on gold on this US30. I'm going to leave until the open because of how it's sat on this heavy resistance and the support of our trend line. So gold is looking good. Look at this, looking for a sell now. Would nip in on a quick cheeky sell on this, but because we've got this news coming on, I'm just going to hold off.
In the rhetoric in terms of their goals, they're not talking about the denazification of the government.
Let's see.
They're talking more about Ukraine becoming neutral, in other words, not joining NATO. So that, I think, is significant.
See what we can get in on gold.
It leads to a cessation of hostilities, because the
IC Markets, my chosen broker. I think that's the best one for scalping, especially on executions, which is looked to.
I can't see the Ukrainians giving up sovereignty over a big chunk of their territory.
Now,
Ambassador, can I just jump in just quickly, slightly off track, but we just got a headline about
one standard lot, which is $1 a pip. What I'm trading. and you need a margin of about $1,000. So you need a decent account, 2,000-3,000.
What it is
Not huge, but you need a bigger account at the moment to take some drawdown because things can go against you. This is a highly volatile period to trade. But fun, and you learn so much from the markets. We're going to stick an arrow on our chart here.
Washington pause, and
or
I think that they're overestimating the possible risk of flying from a U.S. base, but that's my understanding of it.
Ian, thank you just for that clarification at the end there as well. Ian Kelly there, the former U.S. ambassador to Georgia. Just as we get a headline, Tom, from Representative Congressman Adam Smith of the Armed Services Committee, the chairman, speaking on CNN, saying we must figure out a way to get Ukraine more drones.
This is important in 2 points. First of all, Adam Smith is not just...
Like I say, usually I'll be 100% in on this, but you just don't know. You just don't know the move. Like I say, gold's pulling back over 2,000. Oh, we've got a bear break signal. This is what I like. Look, the signal's there live. This is what you get when you get the Axe trading system, become part of the team.
Seems like everybody wants drones.
Bear signal. Again, I would usually jump in on this.
A wartime president addressing Congress at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Within that address, we are expecting some requests of this government for more military help. What will the follow-through look like?
Disappeared. Now you've got to wait for it to set and stay. Usually when you get these bull and break signals, when you're hit and oversold or overbought, it's very quick, and these are the ones that don't last a long time. Very small wins. When you get the bull and the bear signal midway, then they're more reliable. First one's going down, not hitting. Our next points of interest line, 1916. Just the snooze. Just typical, you get a signal when the news comes out and you've got to take note of the news. I know it's, even though it's minor, there's only a minute to go, it's stupid to jump in on something that, you know, news is obviously worse than expected, and I'm expecting I'm gonna take a sell on gold. For sure. Good. Good. Nice break, RSI is beautiful, and so this would be a great little trade, but like I say, it's just, if this is better than expected, then we'll look for gold to reverse up. We want it to go in the same way. I love it when the news takes it the same way as the current trend. It's when it goes against it, it's risky, and you've got to be in and out quick. See what we get. 20 seconds. Good luck, everybody. Quick. Sport is worse than expected. Is the right way. Retail sales are all worse than expected. 3. Good. Patient. Yep, there's the drop. We're in and we're out, and we're done. Brill. 3 trades taken there. On that, overall, it was all worse than expected. And that was it. We were in and out in basically 20 seconds. So all done. Posting the results into the team. Yeah, and didn't set a TP, let it fly, because I saw it jump down, up to our next level, so that was perfect. A little scalp. I entered 3 positions on that, 3 1 standards, and I got $80, $80, and $75. So a nice little cheeky $250, 20 seconds of trading. That's what I'm talking about. True scalping.
See new concerts that go behind the scenes, plus acclaimed archival concerts. Visit VSO.org/now, where the music plays on. VSO season sponsor, Bank of America.
That's what we like to see. This is the kind of perfect scenario of what the whole thing is set up for. You know, you haven't got time to do a stop loss in there. I'm watching it live. As soon as I'm got the green, I'm taking the money. I'm not messing around. You know, put a held and all this kind of thing. Where else are you going to get $250 in 20 seconds? Why would I want to be greedy and risk blowing and reversing on me? That's the whole technique of true scalping. Using a news event to give you the momentum. Like you say, at the end of the day, look, retail sales, all the news was worse than expected. It was 3 against 2. We've still got one more to come out here. So,
see some evidence of that in February. Retail sales on a month-over-month basis are up just 0.3%. In January, they were up 3.8%. The forecast was for a 0.4 rise. Take out autos and gasoline, and retail sales drop by 0.4. So a big contribution, it looks like, from gasoline. And then the retail sales control group, which is the one that economists like to follow because it sort of goes into GDP. It's down 1.2% after a 4.8% rise the month before. Still waiting for the revision on that. But it does suggest that rising inflation and maybe war fears during February did weigh on the consumer.
Big revision, Mike, just come through for the previous month. That's quite a revision for the previous month, isn't it?
It does come through, and let's just run through that. The headline rose 4.9% instead of 3.8%. Ex-autos and gas up 5.2 instead of 3.
Brilliant. So we've got it spot on.
I was talking about,
and with gold, the reverse pre-market took the sell and went with it. Now on the open, usually we would look at taking the buy. Look at this spike. There's the new spike. These are the new spikes I love. Most traders are scared of trading them, don't understand them. We love them and embrace them. This is where we make our money. We're not bothered about everything else. This is all we're bothered about, trading. And like I say, for me, that was $250 in 20 seconds, so that's perfect.
Are always heavily revised.
Mike, here's the question. I'll ask Dana Peterson the same question because I think to get.
I knew what level it was going to come down to.
These are inflation top numbers. These are nominal retail sales.
Yeah.
How does this explosive inflation change the usefulness of?
You see, look, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 over 2. So again, the weight of the news was worse than expected, and you got 3 high impacts against 1. Good. So this is what you want. You play it. Now we've got the housing and market index medium one again, so we've got to be careful. But we've got the open before this in the next an hour or so.
Retail sales.
But Tom, that's exactly the point that I picked up on. I just took it in a different direction.
I stole it from you.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking these are nominal rates of retail sale. That means that, frankly, on an inflation-adjusted basis, you're probably seeing a decline.
Well, let's go.
A pretty significant decline.
Let's go to the wise one on this, and then we'll talk to Dana Peterson. Michael McKee, is there such a thing as real retail?
You don't get it from the government, but
why not?
The Fed does deflate the numbers, and you can see what they are. What you have to do is not just apply an inflation figure, but an inflation figure for each category, because obviously gasoline prices have gone up more than toothbrush prices.
Am I out of my mind to go with Knoxville and Chattanooga on my bracket? I mean, it's so romantic. They're like an hour and a half away from each other.
As far as I know, Tom, you're never out of your mind.
Do you want to stay on sport, Tom?
No,
I'll let that one go, Mike, because I'm not so sure about that either. But I'm going to slip this headline in from the spokesman of Ken Griffin, Tom. Part of the bidding group for Chelsea. Just getting confirmation from Citadel's Ken Griffin, the spokesperson for him. Part of the bidding group for Chelsea. There you go.
Can I make a suggestion with the Ricketts-Griffin combine? They can just basically write out a personal check and just say, here, see if it works.
we've got to clear up how this works, Tom.
Yeah,
I'm sure they know better than I do.
Serious. I get
Can you
that.
imagine the amount of lawyers you've got to talk to make this work? As I understand it, final bids for the football club on Friday.
But, John, can we make clear that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom has been very overt, including his travels to Saudi Arabia, I believe happening right now? I mean,
to do something about energy, yeah.
I'm going to suggest any transaction involving the gentleman from Chicago will be reviewed by 10 Downing Street. Am I off the mark on that?
I think the Premier League's got to review it as well. The Premier League has to. They have this fit and proper test for ownership, Tom. So the buyer, and let's face it, if it's the Cubs with Ken Griffin, then you'd imagine that buyer is a fit and proper owner of a Premier League.
We got some signals, team. We got some signals. NAS 100 bear break. Right, let's flick on to NAS. Let's see what we got.
So let's see what the number is and how many people actually put a bid together by the end of this week.
Okay, we'll have to see.
Got a bear break on NAS. Looking good, looking good. Right, US Tech.
Gentleman from Ukraine.
Get some sells away on this.
Made allusions of 1941 to Churchill, but it is a tumult of the moment.
See what we can get. If this breaks, it's pulling down.
And all of their great research capabilities. Dana Peterson joins us right now. Dana, what is
RSI just about to hit that over sold zone.
Data collection. What's the thing that the conference board sees
signal
about
there
America right now that matters?
Well, certainly it's consumer confidence. And, our last survey was from February, and it was very clear that consumers were still looking to spend, but they were becoming very frustrated about inflation. And certainly there were some concerns about rising interest rates. And certainly with the war in Ukraine, inflation is going to become even worse in our view looking ahead.
Do you think that consumer sentiment is deteriorating
right on that points of interest as a support?
University of Michigan surveys.
Okay, sort of nipping and out, nothing too major.
As the numbers come out.
Sure. So with the University of Michigan, their measures are very closely aligned with, say, financial markets, and our measures are more aligned with labor markets. And labor markets are doing very well. We saw in the last employment report, healthy gains, very healthy gains.
RSI 25 is going to hit that over sold and go bright red.
A bit of improvement in terms of the participation
nice when you get the backup of the signal and the RSI together.
Employment environment, and that's being reflected in our measure. So our measure hasn't fallen as much as the University of Michigan, but still our inflation expectations gauge continues to rise. When we ask consumers what are they worried about, they're saying, look, inflation is just a big issue for us. And certainly looking ahead, we're going to see higher prices for food, for energy, for metals. Why is this relevant? Well,
let's keep on that. Let's see if we can jump in and out. I'm just waiting to see if it breaks this level.
Meat, thinking about energy, gasoline prices have doubled so far. And even for metals, many semiconductors use these rare earths and metals from Russia and the Ukraine. And certainly it's going to be more expensive to buy things that require computer chips like cars, cell phones, other
side beautiful, just entering that oversold first level. Continuation, let's remember, continuation.
For January, yet we did see a massive deceleration and even decline when you look at the control group, and this is on a nominal basis, on an inflation-adjusted basis. Essentially,
brilliant. We're in and out, no messing, nice and quick on that one. And we got £32. We got $50 on that little trade there. Didn't want to mess around because I don't usually trade the NAS when it's not actually properly open, if you know what I mean, the pre-market. But I went with the signal on the X trading system, and we got in there. There we go. Few pips, but that was enough for $50.
Sales in January, it's really not. You can't have consecutive increases like that on a regular basis. So maybe you should just add the 2 months together. But certainly, we are very worried. Again.
Could have held it longer, all the rest of that, don't believe in that. Like I say, take the money, or it disappears off the table, because there's always other trades. This is the thing about trading on the Axe trading system with a 3-minute time frame. There's always another trade. You don't need to be holding, because there'll be 25, 30 on average trades a day if you want to take them.
What is your view of that? I mean, do we really get down solidly under 3% growth out in a year from now?
Oh yes.
So that's put us up. Today, we're up about 600 today. Pretty good. We've done 1, 2, 3, 4,
range. So
6,
certainly
7,
next year we
8,
could be
9, 10,
2.5%.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15 trades and 1 loss today. And the 1 loss wouldn't have been a loss. I ended it prematurely like an idiot. But there you go. But, you know, we're up. That's the most important thing. And we've still got the open to come.
Gas was $3.62 a gallon. Now it's $4.31.
Got this, we've got the open, then we've got the housing, and then that's it. Like I say, usually I would trade the EIA crude and the gas. I love trading these. Not now. Danger city. The spreads are massive and the direction is all over the place. And then everyone's going to be waiting for the Fed decision later on, which I'll be live in my trading group in the Discord channel for that. And we'll see what these projections are. And the speech as well, and see if we can jump in on gold and maybe do some trading on that. That'd be interesting. But really, the news is all there. We just got this housing, business inventories, medium impact. Might not do anything, but I'll hang around just to see. And we'll do that as the final kind of thing. Now's done well there. That was a nice sell, nice win. Let's go back to gold. On gold, I would like to say there was the new spike, but a spike on the London Open both ways. Retail sales, nice new spike. And now what I'm looking for is a buy on the open. We've got quite a bit of resistance here, so we'll see where it is. Let's wait. I mean, the good thing is, while we're waiting for the opens and everything and news events, now we've got the bull and bear signals to focus on as they come up. Mine are just set on DAX, gold, US30 and NAS. Obviously you can apply it to anything you really want to trade. DAX as well, look, on the dip, pulling back, port level, up the blue zones. When these blue zones drop on the chart, they usually mean they're quite well respected, you know, historical areas of support and resistance, rather than our grid system, which is kind of like closer to the front of the price action, where the blue zones are more historical. So, you know, I do trust them, and I tend to end a trade when I see one stick, or at least, you know, check it out before I enter a trade.
The Nasdaq up by 1.6%. Can you tell that Tom Keene goes away soon, Lisa?
No clue. No, that didn't seem
no
to.
idea
No.
that he's away.
Let's have a look at Hong Kong, Hang Seng. Look at that, you see? This is the gains. Look at that, beautiful. And you could have got all these gains, look. Our bull came in. I mean, you took a win on the bear, look. You took a win here. The bear signal, not a problem. Again, just waited for it to break that level. RSI came out of the neutral zone at the same time. So that would have been a nice... Yeah, I usually go 100, but you could have got 500 points on that. There's a win on that, and then obviously a nice big win on the... That came in perfectly. Full signal as it broke the first overbought level. So, and then continued on up. Look at that, look how high it went. I mean, it skied. It was 97. Amazing, amazing strength. Pulls back all those losses. So we could have got in on there. We could have got in on multiple times here. Would have got it back in on that. I'd have got back in there. And gone back in on there. Multiple trades stacked up on this. Gone back in on there once that crossed.
To fire its first ICBM in 5 years. The South Korean military says the missile is presumed to have failed shortly after launch. In sports, tough news if you're Tom Keene and a Tottenham supporter. Billionaire Ken Griffin and the owner of the Chicago clubs, the Ricketts family, reportedly teaming up to make a bid for the UK's Chelsea Football Club. That's according to Sky News. No details on the offer yet. Last week,
there would have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 winners on the Hong Kong.
For a rushed sale of the team. Global news 24 hours a day on air and at Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts.
And the thing is, it's easy to set the alerts up, you know, on whatever you want to trade on our Axe trading system here. create the alert. Okay. The choice of the bear, breakout, or the bull. Use the one you want. Then 1 bar per close. So 1 per bar. 1 per bar close means obviously the candle closes and it sticks. So which is cool, but you might be late getting in the trade if you want to flash it in and out and true scalp. The ones per bar means it could repaint, but it means it gives you a heads up, and then you can watch the chart, and if it sticks, then obviously you get straight into the trade. I mean, as soon as the sticks. This one can repaint, so you don't just go straight in as soon as you get the alert. It gives you a chance to watch it. So that's the one I choose, and you can have it sent to your app, email, or on my phone, everything. And that's it. Just set those two up on everything you want to trade, and when these babies appear, you can cash in on them. You know what I mean? And it's like they're pretty, pretty good. I mean, they don't always win, but it's a high hit rate. So I try and hang on. I mean, like that was a loss, that was a win, that was a win, win. And what you do, I always set the stop loss to the next nearest points of interest level. So obviously I'd been stopped out here on this one. Didn't get 100, and again you can set down to next levels if you want, but I just go for like 100 points on these indices. So say you got in on, look, you'd have been 36 up and then it reversed on you. If you was watching the chart, you'd got out on this candle here. If you want your stop loss, you'd have been here, so you'd have took a loss on that one, but that would have been a win. This one, nice 100, win on that one, and a win on this one. So then the bull one there, there'd have been a win on that one, been a win on this one, been a win on this one, win on this one, win on this one. Here we go. We've got a bull. We've got a bear break on US30. Click to the chart. Look. Oh, this is a nice one in the zone. See if we can flash in and out on this if it breaks this key level. Keep watching. On the support, so you've got to be careful. You want to see if it breaks. These kind of signals you just want to be in and out. 25, first level. Just if you get 5 pips. Getting 126 down to our trend line.
Stocked early enough all these precious materials you were just mentioning, and we were on the lucky side that our prognosis was spot on in a way.
Watch this. Of trading these. Especially as we're expecting a correction. I mean, it kind of goes with the expected a massive bull run. We're expecting some kind of correction at least. Our trend line to pull back up and drop, bouncing off that heavy resistance. So you could have put a sell in, like some traders would have done, as soon as it hits that heavy resistance. Sell in here, drop down, especially when it crossed zone and drop down. So decent level of support here. The 25, but we'll watch and see. If it goes into here, we'll get a trade away.
I don't think CEOs per se are going to determine these policies. I think workers will, because all of us CEOs, I think, want the best talent, and I think flexibility is going to be the second most important benefit after compensation.
Thank you so much. Good morning, and that is Brian Chesky with David Rubenstein. We'll talk about that in a moment. The headline flow is extraordinary. And there is a headline, Lisa Abramowitz, that has moved the markets, and it is distressing to say the least. This is in Turkey, with Lavrov talking about denazification.
Okay.
He said the market joy came to an absolute halt on the release of that Bloomberg headline.
How much is this code for some sort of regime change? Basically, Sergei Lavrov of Russia saying that Russia seeks
US30 pushing down, trying to break that level.
Denazification, that of course has been what they have called the president of Ukraine, who is a Jewish individual, Zelensky, who is also a Holocaust. His family is a Holocaust surviving family, Tom.
What we're going to do here is have a bit of a different conversation with David Rubenstein.
We got $25 on that. Nice little cheeky sell. Beautiful.
Who is Mr. Chesky and why is he germane right now?
I just pulled out though, so I just got in and out as it bounced off that trend line, just watching it. Boom. See if there's a drop now, a continuation. A drop again now.
As much as they used to. They're working remotely. More and more people are using Airbnb to kind of relocate themselves. And in fact, roughly 20% of all the people that use Airbnb do it for 30 days or more, and half the people use it for a week or more. It's not like a one-night kind of overnight thing like a hotel might be. So it's changed completely the perception of what you do with your time when you're away from your home. You can stay a much longer period of time than you did before, and his company is doing quite well.
Well, and the future of Airbnb
hinges
on the future of work from home, on the future of the ability to take a month and go to Hawaii and spend it there. How much on Wall Street is that really going to be the story when you see the likes of Goldman Sachs and even JP Morgan?
Bound to mess around a little bit because you've got this heavy support zone.
Well,
You got points of interest and two blue zones stacked up. So
saying come to the office, but these are very unique and unusual firms. They're centered in New York. They're financial service kinds of organizations. The average person doesn't work at Goldman Sachs and JP.
See if that level breaks and we'll go again.
Can work from home or can work from
Side 32, 31.
So it's changed the way
Bounced off that.
Live and work. I don't
RSI bounces
the pandemic that we've gone through. People are going to come back to the office 5 days a week in the same pattern that we've had before. And
of course, with the news, we expect US30 to drop on the open. Well, we would like it to go again. Moment doesn't always go that way. That's why we wait until the open before we remove.
It's rebounded and it's doing quite well. It's got a market value of about $92 billion now.
So go ahead, Tom.
Lisa, please.
No, honestly, this has been a really interesting moment because we're
Brilliant, and we're in and out. What do we get there? Yay, another $45. Brilliant.
Of crisis, right? And
So that will do nicely.
As the head of a company trying to figure out, heads of investment company, talking to other heads of companies, how are people rethinking their business plans on the prospect of more prolonged commodity prices, of more prolonged disruption, even beyond the pandemic?
I think all employers are learning it's not as easy to get your people back to work as you once thought. You just can't say come back to work and they all come back exactly 5 days a week the way they used to. So you also have a hard time getting employees now in many companies. So you have to be more tolerant of what employees want to do. And employees have now tasted the idea that you can work at home.
I was doing well.
Or you can work remotely. And
Up 700 now. This is good.
People will work for quite
At 29, I'll enter again if I see the RSI pulled back dip. At the moment, it's ranging around. Wait and see on that. But again, it's effectiveness of the signals. Go. So gold. There's the news pulling back up. Gets above our baseline here, then we could be looking at a buy on gold. Here in points of interest, which you might get 5 pips. Still 5 pips on gold is cool. Spread and commission. RSI, I just want to see that come green.
Obviously, Warren Buffett is probably the class of all value investors. Michael Price was trained.
Yeah, I just were looking at the Hong Kong before we got sidetracked by trading. Yeah, look, I mean, even these are all,
not only a great philanthropist, but a good sports fan, as you know, from his stake in the New York.
Going on this one here.
And what was important here was the grace of it in this modern day, the snark of the modern day.
Might have caught a winner there. You would have done on here.
That you would see of a Michael Price or John Templeton and the others.
I don't always rely on these, but they're pretty good. I'd say it's 80%. There's some guys who can just trade these. As long as you're trading them, against levels. Got this grid, our points of interest grid.
but he was seen as a class act, a smart person, and he was very, very
From
philanthropic.
Good Times, look at that. That was a risky one there, but you got a loss there, then a win, then another win. Got a win there, you got a win there. Might have been a win there. Win. So yeah, that, you know, you can go back and do 100 trades on these and see how accurate it is. Just another extra thing that's thrown into the Axe trading system. It's there if you want to trade it.
Possibly for more aids, possibly for drones. These are some of the things that we're going to be looking for.
But usually Hong Kong 50 only trade it in the Asian session anyway, you know. But that's how you set the alerts up.
Right now is some sort of ceasefire in Mariupol.
BP225 went the same way. Chinese 50 again, same pattern.
Who is going to be the mediator has been a big question.
Aussie 200.
Tries to throw their ring in the hat as well.
Very nice. Nice moves on that with the RSI as well.
The strait that they control.
Eyes here, look. Again, nice bull signal.
General sense of traffic. I would also
there one as well.
Lavrov headline of a moment ago for radio. Russia seeks Ukraine demilitarization.
So we've got no positions open at the moment.
And that brought this market to a pause.
How does that correlate with
done
this idea
one,
of
two.
being neutral and having their own protective army, right? It doesn't, which means are these talks really realistic?
And I think
20 trades and 2 losses so far. Hey, pretty good.
Built through the day while witnessing the horror of war in Ukraine. We will move forward on radio and
focus back on the NAS because we're going to be looking at this.
Harkening back to Churchill in 1941.
Their signal played out really well, then ranging, and here's the blue zone you see I'm talking about. You want it to break that and come down again before taking another trade. Like it wants to. It's below our trend lines, below our baseline, bear signal.
Welcome back to another special BNP Paribas Open update for Bloomberg TV and radio.
Watch this, see, presses. Break our zone.
Into the quarterfinals in the desert with an impressive straight sets win over Harriet Dart. The 27-year-old was always in control against the Brits, dropping just 5 games in a victory that took just over an hour.
I definitely think having such a great game to break after having a couple of opportunities early in the second set and not capitalizing on them, and then just being able to serve it out. And obviously I was a little bit nervous, but being able to do it pretty straightforwardly was probably the good part.
Later, John Isner overpowered Argentina's Diego Schwartzman on his way to the round of 16.
And don't usually trade this, you know, pre-market, but you know, this is what it is. If there's something there, the setup looks nice. RSI just kisses at 25. Could be a nice little re-enter. Ranging around on that blue zone, like I say, it wants to break it. See what it wants to do. It wants to just have a little correction. Could be forming a double top at some point, or this could be the second leg now because we touched it 2 times here and down. Like I said, it just hasn't got the momentum yet. There's 30 minutes to go till the open.
When you think space, you probably think one space agency that travels under the radar is ESA, which is surprising considering what the European Space Agency has achieved and how vital it is to the global space industry.
We've collaborated with pretty much everybody who is involved in space exploration.
But ESA wants to be a leading force in furthering humanity's mission into space.
Commander Ground, do you copy? Copy.
If we want to have successful human missions to Mars,
We are going to have to learn to live and work off-world in a different way. The place where we are going to learn to do that is on the moon.
Can ESA help humanity take its next giant leap?
Now, still not doing anything, still nothing. I want to see it break this before I trade away. Watching RSI in conjunction 27. You see the pressure. This is just holding on the blue zone. If there wasn't a blue zone there, this would be in and down. At least, like I say, 10 pips. Happy with 5. Not being greedy is the key. I tell you, the key to a lot of trading. FOMO, all that kind of stuff.
It's really a reminder, isn't it, just how sensitive the markets are to any commentary about trade. We did see some pressure on the yuan, we did see some pressure on the futures. That is now being reversed.
Done. Yes, there we go. Beautiful. Spike down. Perfect. Got 2 positions and closed them. And we got $75, £26 and £25. So £52, about $75. There you go. Perfect. Little bonus trade. I love these little bonus trades. Thanks to that bear signal and the price action.
From New York City, we begin with the big issue, a president's plea. President Zelensky of Ukraine set to deliver a rare wartime address to US lawmakers any moment as Russia continues to attack Ukraine. Team coverage through this morning with Bloomberg.
Problem you see when you've got this big world news in the background playing out. Everything's dangerous. When he addresses Congress, I'm not going to trade. I recommend everybody just sit tight because you just don't know what's going to, how the markets are going to react to it. Here we go, look, we'll watch this live. At the moment, gold's looking to form a W pattern. Bang, 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 bang. Pull that in.
There's been a big controversial debate here on Capitol Hill with the administration coming from Poland. This is going to be his main ask. But Jonathan, we should also note, last time he zoomed in with a number of lawmakers, they really ratcheted up the pressure on the Biden administration. And just following after
that
this
could
speech
be
from President Volodymyr Zelensky,
my thoughts on gold.
is going to be incredibly emotional. The President of the United States is also going to address the American people about Ukraine.
Does he have the support of Congress on the issues that you just laid out?
On the first issue, in terms of a no-fly zone, that is going to be incredibly hard. There is a bit of bipartisan support that line up with the administration that a no-fly zone would basically mean an escalatory presence. This would create conflict potentially directly between the United States and Russia. President Biden has called that, quote, World War III. So that likely will not be able to move the needle. But Jonathan, on the second issue, on fighter jets, he has Republican support.
Maria, I want to come to you.
NAS we're dropping down to our next level, and US30 also as well. So again, the signals were spot on for the bear and the bull.
Can you run us through what we've heard so far this morning from both sides?
Bloomberg. We want to watch this in addressing Congress. It's going to be interesting and see how the markets. What you've got to do, you watch the world news and see how it affects how things move or don't move. And when these events happen again, you know what to look at and what to trade.
For Ukrainians. Now, earlier in the day, of course, we did hear from the Russian government suggesting that an option like neutral status
also gives me a chance to top up my coffee.
Which means means you're not part of NATO, but you do get to
in a
keep an army,
second.
which is something the Russians could work with. Immediately after, the Ukrainians said, not so fast. This is not something that we would agree on just like that. We need more time to debate what we want. And another thing important to note here is that for Ukrainians, when they talk about neutral status with security guarantees, they don't just want to hear from the Russians. They do not trust Vladimir Putin. They're at war with the Russians as we speak. They want an agreement that would be almost global, that would entail and bring in all the big powers of the world. They talk about neighbor countries. They talk about Turkey. They talk about the European Union and, of course, the United States. So this idea of neutral status, this is a very, very thorny path for the two of them. And we should note that for the past 2 weeks, the track record is not good for Russia. They say one thing, but in reality, they do something very different. And we see that in places like Mariupol, the situation there continues to be tragic for people. Kyiv is in now a 36-hour lockdown. Nobody's able to go out on the streets because the capital of Ukraine is preparing for an assault from Russian troops.
If you're just tuning in, we're looking at a packed-out hall, the Capitol Visitor Center Congressional Auditorium, waiting for Speaker Pelosi to walk up to that podium, walk us through an introduction, then we'll hear from President Zelensky. Just on the talks, AMH, from Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov moments ago, Russia seeking Ukraine's demilitarization, denazification. That's the tone, exactly the tone we saw when Russia first started this invasion. Can we really sit here and conclude and say that talks are moving in the right direction if we're still hearing that kind of language from the Russian foreign minister?
It's incredibly difficult, especially, Jonathan, we should note, leading up to the invasion, when the United States was sharing all of this intelligence with its European partners and the world, Russia maintained a position that they had zero plans, no plans to invade Ukraine. This is why it is very difficult at times to take what the Kremlin is saying or Sergei Lavrov is saying really at first-hand value, because we've seen them do this in the past.
Can you trust anybody? Hey?
And it was actually false. So that is why that really shapes the tone of these diplomatic talks, Jonathan. So it is difficult, as Maria is talking about as well, not just the fact that they don't always match what they've said in terms of the rhetoric coming out of the Kremlin, but also the actions on the ground. Jonathan, that has not changed. And those examples, what is going on in Kiev, what is going on in Mariupol, the bombing of the military center, training facility near the Polish border, these are the moments, this color, President Volodymyr Zelensky sitting in Kiev is going to bring to Congress today.
Speaker Pelosi just taking to the stage. AMH, let's listen in.
Go. Good lad.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Madam Ambassador, who is with us this morning. Madam Ambassador. Ambassador Makarova. Mr. President, it is my honor to present to you the Congress of the United States, which has great respect and admiration and appreciation for your courageous leadership. Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you the President of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky. Slava Ukraina! Slava Ukraina!
Yes.
Glory to heroes. My colleagues, Slava Ukraina!
Slava Ukraina. Watch Gold. Let's have a look and see what happens while he's talking.
Glory to heroes.
As down, US30 down, Gold, ranging.
Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, members of the Congress, ladies and gentlemen, Americans, friends.
Gold up, there we go. Look at the break. Look at the break on Gold.
From Ukraine, from our capital,
Leave.
city of Kyiv, a city that is under missile and airstrikes from Russian troops every day. But it doesn't give up. And we have not even thought about it for a second. Just
Gold
like
is flying.
other
cities and communities in
Talking's
our
going on.
beautiful country, which found themselves in the worst war since World War II. I have the honor to greet you on behalf of the Ukrainian people, brave and freedom-loving people who for 8 years have been resisting the Russian aggression. Those who give their best sons and daughters to stop this full-scale Russian invasion. Right now, the destiny of our country is being decided. The destiny of our people, whether Ukrainians will be free, whether they will be able to preserve their democracy. Russia has attacked not just us, not just our land, not just our cities. It went on a brutal offensive against our values, basic human values. It threw tanks and planes against our freedom, against our right to live freely in our own country, choosing our own future, against our desire for happiness, against our national dreams, just like the same dreams you have, you Americans, just like anyone else in the United States. I remember your national memorial in Rushmore, the faces of your prominent presidents, those who laid the foundation of the United States of America as it is today, democracy, independence, freedom, and care for everyone, for every person, for everyone who works diligently, who lives honestly, who respects the law. We in Ukraine want the same for our people. All that is normal part of your own life. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, Americans, in your great history, you have pages that would allow you to understand Ukrainians, understand us now, when you need it right now, when we need you right now. Remember Pearl Harbor, terrible morning of December 7, 1941, when your sky was black from the planes attacking you. Just remember it. Remember September the 11th, a terrible day in 2001 when evil tried to turn your cities, independent territories, in battlefields, when innocent people were attacked from air. Yes, just like no one else expected it. You could not stop it. Our country experience the same every day, right now, at this moment, every night, for 3 weeks now. Various Ukrainian cities, Odessa and Kharkiv, Chernihiv and Sumy, Zhytomyr and Lviv, Mariupol and Dnipro.
Dropping.
Russia has turned the Ukrainian
No,
sky
this is the volatility.
source of death.
No, we're not true. We're just watching and waiting and see what we get.
Russian troops
A nice W pattern forming as well.
1,000 missiles at Ukraine, countless bombs. They use drones to kill us.
Neutral zone.
Precision.
All down, look. Nice if it follows our pattern.
Has not seen for 80 years.
US30s on support.
For a reply, for an answer
As well. Oh, this is weird because we're 15 minutes from the open and this Zelensky speech overrides everything.
Over Ukraine to save people. Is this too much to ask? Humanitarian no-fly zone. Something that that Russia would not be able to terrorize our free cities. If this is too much to ask, we offer an alternative. You know what kind of defense systems we need, S-300 and other similar systems. You know how much depends on the battlefield, on the ability to use aircraft, powerful, strong aviation to protect our people, our freedom, our land, aircraft that can help Ukraine, help Europe. And you know that they exist and you have them, but they are on Earth, not in Ukraine, in the Ukrainian sky. They do not
defend our people. I have a dream. These words are known to each of you. Today I can say, I have a need. I need to protect our sky. I need your decision, your help, which means exactly the same you feel when you hear the words, I have a dream. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, Ukraine is grateful to the United States for its overwhelming support, for everything that your government and your people have done for us, for weapons and ammunition, for training, for finances, for leadership in the free world, which helps us to pressure the aggressor economically. I'm grateful to President Biden for his personal involvement, for his sincere commitment to the defense of Ukraine and democracy all over the world. I am grateful to you for the resolution which recognizes all those who commit crimes against Ukraine, against the Ukrainian people as war criminals. However, now, it is true, in the darkest time for our country, for the whole Europe, I call on you to do more. New packages of sanctions are needed constantly, every week, until the Russian military machine stops. Restrictions are needed for everyone on whom this unjust regime is based. We propose that the United States sanctions all politicians in the Russian Federation who remain in their offices and do not cut ties with those who are responsible for the aggression against Ukraine, from State Duma's members to the last official who has lack of morale to break the state terror. All American companies must leave Russia from their
Yes,
market,
well said.
leave their market.
Gold shooting down, still spiking. Look at this. This is great.
It is
3
flooded
spikes.
with our blood. Ladies and gentlemen,
Don't
members of Congress, please take the lead. If
Oh,
you have
gold
companies
is
in
going to
your
push up.
districts who finance the Russian military machine leaving business in Russia, you should put pressure. I'm asking to make sure that the Russians do not receive a single penny that they use to destroy people in Ukraine.
Yeah, well said.
The destruction of our country, the destruction of Europe. All American ports should be closed for Russian goods. Peace is more important than income, and we have to defend this principle in the whole world. We already became part of the anti-war coalition, a big anti-war coalition that unites many countries, dozens of countries, those who reacted to, in principle, to President Putin's decision to invade our country. But we need to move on and do more. We need to create new tools to respond quickly and stop the war, the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, which began on February 24th. And it would be fair if it ended in a day, in 24 hours, that evil would be punished immediately. Today, the world does not have such tools. The war of the past have prompted our predecessors to create institutions that should protect us from war. But they unfortunately don't work. We see it, you see it, so we need new ones, new institutions, new alliances, and we offer them. We propose to create an association, U24, United for Peace, a union of responsible countries that have the strength and consciousness to stop conflicts immediately, provide all the necessary assistance in 24 hours, if necessary, even weapons, if necessary, sanctions, humanitarian support, political support, finances, everything you need to keep the peace and quickly save the world, to save lives. In addition, such association, such union could provide assistance to those who are experiencing natural disasters, man-made disasters, who fell victims to humanitarian crisis or epidemics. Remember how difficult it was for the world to do the simplest thing, just to give vaccines against COVID to save lives, to prevent new strains. The world spent months, years doing things like that much faster. to make sure there are no human losses, no victims. Ladies and gentlemen, Americans, if such alliance would exist today, that is U24, we would be able to save thousands of lives in our country. In many countries of the world, those who need peace, those who suffer inhumane destruction. I ask you to watch one video of what the Russian troops did in our country.
So you get a little spiking. So what happens with the Fed speech? That perfectly center W pattern.
Preventively destroy every single aggressor who seeks to subjugate other nations. Please watch the video.
Gold now, ranging in the neutral zone. Look, is it going to pop up the open? US30 bounce back off the support. NAS will have done the same. Yep. Terrible. Eight minutes to go to the NY Open. There's the sky.
And in the end, to sum it up, today,
Waiting for the break, waiting for the open.
It's not enough to be the leader of the nation. Today it takes to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace. Peace in your country doesn't depend anymore only on you and your people. It depends on those next to you, on those who are strong. Strong doesn't mean big. Strong is brave and ready to fight for the life of his citizens and citizens of the world, for human rights, for freedom, for the right to live decently and to die when your time comes, and not when it's wanted by someone else, by your neighbor. Today, the Ukrainian people are defending not only Ukraine, we are fighting
Oh, dropping, look at that.
And the
Crazy drops.
Sacrificing our
RSI come out the zone.
of the future.
Nice sell. Going to bottom out on here, or is it going to hold on this support?
Not just Ukraine.
Going to get a perfect W pattern like this.
And the world to keep the planet alive, to keep justice in history. Now I'm almost 45 years old. Today, my age stopped when the hearts of more than 100 children stopped beating. I see no sense in life if it cannot stop the death. And this is my main mission as the leader of my people, great Ukrainians. And as the leader of my nation, I'm addressing the President Biden. You are the leader of the nation, of your great nation. I wish you to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
Glory to Ukraine.
Nice speech, great speech.
Thank you for your support.
A standing ovation for the leader of Ukraine. His words, right now the destiny of our country is being decided. I have a dream, I have a need, I need to protect our sky. A deeply emotional video closed with this line, close the sky over Ukraine. He ended that speech in English. He addressed the President of the United States. I wish for you to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means being the leader of peace. Joining us now, Anne-Marie down in Washington, D.C., Maria Tadeo in Brussels. AMH, more sanctions are needed. 1, 2, close the sky over Ukraine. What can this White House deliver?
Yeah, Jonathan, that emotional speech there with a video as well showing the destruction on the ground of what is going on. And I think that's really going to stick with individuals here at the Hill. I think everyone's hearts and minds are with the people of Ukraine right now. But the end of that speech, Jonathan, just a blank slate, close the skies. He called for two things, and very interesting, the nuance of his language.
Going to get reversed on the open. See, 3 minutes to go.
No fly zone. And then he said, if you cannot do that, though, give us the defense. Give us what we need in order to be able to protect our skies ourselves.
Maria, let me turn to you. More sanctions are needed. How would this resonate with the Europeans today?
Well, Jonathan, of course, it was very clear that they were going to ask for this. Again, as Anne-Marie said, is what Ukraine has been asking for weeks now. More sanctions, more economic pressure, shut down pretty much every infrastructure. That also means here in Europe, including ports and similar infrastructure when it comes to doing any trade or business with Russia. Of course, very powerful speech. Here's the thing, Jonathan. We've heard this repeatedly from Zelensky. This is someone who worked as an actor, who knows how to work a crowd. This thing had the whole package, Slava Ukraina, turning into English at the end of this, and is very much or very similar to the message that he's delivered to Europe. Now, the issue here, of course, is that at least when it comes to the European Union, there are already divisions in terms of the sanctions. There is sanction fatigue in a number of countries. The fear, first we need to take a look at what's happening and look at the scale of the damage, and then we can talk about more sanctions. And you have the Eastern Europeans, of course, who feel this is almost a personal story.
Holders found support on that level. Points of interest. Let's see if we get a push on up.
The big package that Europe could put forward has to do with Russian oil and gas. For the time being, there is no consensus around
the RSI coming back into the neutral zone.
The President of the United States to reply to this. How do you expect him to respond?
Well, we already know that he's going to be announcing more of that military aid, Jonathan, after he signed off
US30 NAS down and gold looking up. I'm seeing it for the open. We've got 2 minutes to go.
Obviously, he's going to have to address this elephant in the room because you have President Volodymyr Zelensky directly asking Congress to close the skies. And he's given them two options. I think it was very interesting and telling how he worded that. If you cannot give me a no-fly zone, then at least give me the materials to be able to protect the skies in Ukraine. That is something that already was getting a lot of Republican support, and potentially this speech is going to put a lot more pressure on Republicans to then put that pressure on in the White House.
Anne-Marie, thank you. Down in Washington alongside Maria Tadeo in Brussels today. Joining us now, Morgan Stanley's Jim Karen, PIMCO's Aaron Brown, and Jim Bianco of Bianco Research. Jim, I want to come to you. How the events unfolding before us in Europe, in Ukraine, and this relationship that Russia has with the rest of the world, not sure we can call it that anymore because there's not much of one, bar China. Jim, how does this set the stage for a Federal Reserve that somehow has got to make a forecast about what the future looks like in the US economy and for the world too?
Oh, it's going to be extraordinarily difficult for the Fed to try and figure out what they're going to go next. But the overriding thing that the Fed is going to focus on, I think, is going to be inflation.
Let's get in there. Let's have a look, see what we can get.
That is their priority right now. A growth, financial stability might have to take a back seat to it. And I think that the Fed is going to probably make the case that they're going to raise rates and continue to raise rates until inflation moderates.
Oh, and we're in and out on US30. We just got a couple of nice sells on that.
Testimony 2 weeks ago. History will show that they're ready.
Let's see if we can do the same on NAS.
Economy into recession. I don't think a lot of investors are ready for that or want
Gold's
to hear
going to
that,
push up, hopefully.
I think they've made that very clear.
Good, that was 18. That was another 50, another $75 on the open on US30.
A summary of the way markets are priced this morning and what people are saying about markets. This idea that talks between Ukraine and Russia are going well. Try and reconcile that with the words of the Ukrainian president in the last 10 minutes, Jim.
Yeah, there's clearly a disconnect. I mean, you know, what's happening on the ground in the Ukraine, as we've seen just now, is a complete tragedy. The markets are focused on, though, any marginal differences that they can really just hang on to. So in a bad situation, if things are getting marginally better, that shows that the delta is starting to change effectively towards, you know, hopefully towards a brighter future.
And out on that quickly before it's shot up. Perfect.
Maybe the upside in the futures markets and in the markets are maybe suggesting that, you know, Russia's hearing this loud and clear, and they're realizing potentially
look at that, beautiful.
You know, the world
nice
is
spike
really against them on this stage. You know, when we think about the Fed, though, I think that we have to understand their policy reaction function, and their policy reaction function is very clear.
See if we can get a sell on
that they need to keep inflation expectations.
Well, if it's going to bounce to our blue zone again.
Taking place, this tragic event, it is also creating a supply shock in the markets. That's creating higher energy prices and higher inflation, and they need to address that
And
again.
looking for 10 pips.
Inflation expectations anchored, and I
Get
can't
me
stress that
about
enough.
$65
So
per
that's where I think
trade.
the Fed's mind is right now.
Jim Bianco with us through the opening bell. Aaron Brown of PIMCO with us too. Going into that, futures are elevated up by 1.28% on the Nasdaq, on the S&P up about 1%. If you get to the bond market, yield shaping up as follows on a 10-year yield going into the Federal Reserve decision a little bit later. 216 yields up a couple of basis points. Euro dollar firmer approaching 110 through that
that's my
level earlier,
prediction.
back down to 109.91. That currency pair up a third of 1%. And crude
We're in profit on NAS. I'm going to take it in a second.
1.8%. Somehow this Fed's going to make a decision today. We imagine they're going to be raising interest rates. From there,
Brilliant.
pretty simple, isn't
Yes.
it, Mike
You know, now we would get $100. Yes. 100 on NAS, 100 on the sale as
this year, next year, and the year after that.
Very simple, at least for the very short term, from maybe 2 o'clock to about 2:30 this afternoon. 25 basis point rate increase in the cards. That's going to happen. Then we get the new summary of economic projections and the new dot plot, and those are going to be very important, informing market expectations for what the Fed is going to do ahead.
So it's going to wait for any buys on gold.
What are they going to do ahead? And you look at the dot plot, and we've shown this before. You see that the market priced in less in tightening after the December
Perfect. So we're
meeting.
943. We're almost at our target of $1,000. Let's see. We've been trading 3 minutes. Let's just see what happens with gold. See if we get anything on. See if this W leg forms RSI creeping back. Yeah, nice win there. Well done, team. There you go on the NY Open, on the NAS. Said that would drop, and it did. And we got a little drop on USC for reversing on us. That's fine. This is what we took in and out. That. There was the candle.
And almost every
That's going to be looks like it's going to be pumping up on US30.
Larry Summers made the case in the Washington Post today that what you're going to get is higher unemployment. That always
And we're in and out on that, and we just got another $100. Yes, on that buy. Perfect. £60, which is about $80. Another $80 on the buy on US30. Post that.
Thank you, Aaron Brown. You get that one. Typically, over the last 10 years, the more we price in for the Fed, the less they're able to do. Spreads are wider, equities are lower, they back away. Is this time different?
No, I don't think this is
So we've done it. We're 1,022. So we are actually done. That was the final trade for me.
in recent history. And so the Fed is trying to
Yeah, and you set yourself a target, set yourself a level,
tipping the economy over
that is
into a recession, but at the same time keeping inflation contained and bringing inflation down from very high levels. I think what's important to watch today are two things. One is, what is that terminal rate that the Fed is projecting? How much higher is that terminal rate relative to neutral rates? Remember, the Fed has said that neutral rates is at about 2.5%. So whether or not they really bring that terminal rate meaningfully above 2.5% is something that the market's going to be really focused on. The other thing to watch for market practitioners is what happens to the yield curve. Right now, we're going into the meeting at about 30 basis points. How that yield curve trades in 2s, 10s is going to be very important as a recessionary indicator for the market. And so as we start to see that move lower, close to zero and through zero, and eventually invert, that's going to be the key that the market's
just looking to see if we get any kind of movement on gold. Nice. Done the buys on that, and my open's great. You can go in again if it gets to 75 and breaks this zone. That's good.
Jim, I'm going to come to you on that.
Nice little correction. We jumped in on there, look.
24 dot right now is at 2.1%. Jim Karen, I caught up with
As
the former New York Fed president,
spiking around, still looking to push down. Yeah, another correction from a big run.
Yeah, I think it needs to go considerably higher. I think that
we're going to focus on gold. Watch gold. We've got a grey candle now, but back into the neutral zone. This is great if it's going to follow our W second leg.
And the market expectations are, much of the consensus of forecasters are expecting that the terminal Fed funds rate is between 2.5 and 2.75%.
But to get through the three zones, though,
because the market is actually pricing that
let's watch it.
2%. So essentially,
then we've got
there's going to be an upgrade in their inflation.
The housing market index, and this really probably not going to do anything, but we'll see. Got 20 minutes to go, and we're done. We've hit our daily TP. All good. And that was a nice to watch the speech and see how the market reacts. You see.
The end of 2022. Now this is interesting because these numbers are above their stated target of inflation, say 2 to 2.5%. So the whole key here is that if we're going to be above target, shouldn't the Fed do more to bring inflation back down to target? And if they don't do more, then what they're basically telling us is that they're going to allow the economy to still run hot and let these inflation pressures build for a while longer. Again, because I think it's temporary and it's driven by a supply shock.
Within the forecast, will we see an implied restrictive Fed? Jim Bianco, you sent me a message earlier this week. I read them all. You said, remember that exchange with Senator Richard Shelby. Are you prepared to do what it takes to get inflation under control? Powell said, I hope history will record that answer to your question is yes. Jim Bianco, are we really going to see anything close to Volcker today?
I don't know if we're going to see it today, but I think that the Fed is going to be on that path. I do believe that there's been a
48 on the RSI, neutral zone, neutral candle,
and they're not going to
trying to hold on to our
being aggressive in dealing with higher prices.
Support of our baseline. Not you see, it's gone green.
Aspects of higher prices moving higher. The March CPI number is going to be another blowout number on the upside because of the rise in gasoline prices for the month alone. Not to mention agricultural prices as well too. But over time, I think they're going to. Powell will go back to what he said in December when he was asked about raising rates aggressively, and he pointed out in the JOLTS report, there's 4.5 million more jobs available than there are unemployed. That implies he can get really aggressive without worrying about creating that unemployment that Larry Summers fretted about today. That's in their mind, that's a ways off, and they could really start going because I do believe it's all about inflation and growth takes a back seat.
6 minutes into the session, ahead of this decision, the equity market advances up more than 1% on the S&P and the Nasdaq up 1.6%. With your movers around the open, here's Abby.
Well, John, we are having this second day of a rebound rally. The S&P 500 gained 3% over the last 2 days, the best 3 days in.
We've got a bonus. We've got a signal. Bull break US30. Bull break US30. Let's get in there. Let's have a look. Oh, it's right on. What a shame. It's right on that 77 zone.
And of course, we have that monster rally in China. The Hang Seng up more than 9%, its best
The
day
push.
since 2008. Las Vegas Sands, the casino operator, more than 70% of their operation, their revenue comes from Macau. That stock up 8%. But take a look at Alibaba, some of these other tech
And we're in and out.
retailers.
What did we
Those are
get?
the real winners in
We
the tech
got
rally.
$20. There you go, in and out on $20 just on that little signal.
More than 70%
Not messing
drop.
around
The
because
question
I'm
is
already
that a real buy
over
dip
my
in the
target.
long-term rebound, John? We'll find out.
Abby, thank you. Earlier on this morning, literally 30 minutes ago, we had an emotional plea from Ukraine's leader for more help on the military front. Interfax reporting the following just moments ago. Russia asking the US to stop weapon supply to Ukraine in a call. That coming from Interfax, that Russia asked US to stop weapon supply to Ukraine in a call, and that line comes just moments after we heard from Ukraine's leader. Vladimir Putin, according to TASS, saying the following: Ukraine operation successful and in line with plans. Still calling it an operation, the rest of the world calling it an invasion. Ukraine operation successful and in line with plans. The word from the Russian president just moments ago. Big move in this equity market through much of this week. At one point, the Nasdaq 100 closed in a bear market, and then we had a big bounce back. With that bounce, here's Kaylee.
Drama, John. It's nothing new for this year, but it really has been quite a
Oh, what a drop on gold. Look at that. Ooh.
Granted, the gains of yesterday only go so far to help recover the
Horror
losses
size.
the Nasdaq 100 has
Sketched
seen
out.
this
Look at
year.
that.
Still off
We draw.
60% on a year to
So
date.
still was no buy. We were looking to take a buy. Didn't happen. Could have got in on the sell.
Into value, but that was not the case yesterday.
Still waiting for this pattern to form. We've got some heavy support here, so we could be dropping down to here. Fine, because what we'll do, we'll enter a sell on this here.
1.5% of outperformance in the last 3 weeks. Though obviously, as we can see on this chart, that hasn't been consistent throughout the year. Another point I would make about yesterday: the only sector that actually ended the day in negative territory was energy. Of course,
down.
value played down because
See if
oil
we can
was down
get
and down hard. WTI back below $100 a barrel, more than 20% off of its recent peak, north of 120 just on March 8th. So yes, in a technical bear market in the span of just about a week, even though it's still up some 30% on the year. And since that March 8th peak, we have seen some big losses for energy companies as well. The biggest losers since then, Schlumberger and Exxon, each down some 12%, and other big North American shale players like Marathon, Coterra, Devon, and Diamondback.
Brilliant. In and out. Great stuff.
As well, John.
Hey, we've got 28 and 19. So what was that? £50. So another $65 there on the sell on gold. Thanks to that, I just jumped straight in.
That's the direction of this equity market you should be leaning.
Right now, I think that the outlook is pretty unclear for equities, and I think that while the market's pricing in about 40% equity, sort of recession risk going into the end of 2022, it's still pretty early, and I think that the outlook is
Time to stop.
Pretty volatile. That said, I think there's been some really high-quality companies that have been, trading and hit pretty hard as a result of the conflict and, the risk of recession moving higher. And I think that it is time to start dipping your toe into certain sectors
Jumped in on that. That's great.
That have sold off, and will continue to do well, I think, because of the quality. But I do think that overall for the market, until we get more clarity with regards to the conflict and more certainty about the outlook for the U.S. economy, I do think that the environment is going to remain exceptionally choppy. That said, again, I think looking for quality within portfolios makes a lot of sense right now, and there are some really good
See how the pattern's got kind of
generating companies
stretched out, but they're still valid.
That offer real value here.
A ton of news this morning, so I appreciate the patience of all three of you as we work through some of this. Jim Bianco, the final word goes to you, sir. This line here: the LME says electronic trading in nickel to reopen at 2 p.m. Jim, I know you've got things to say about this. Here's your opportunity.
Yeah, it's unfortunate what's happening with the LME, and that the way that they've been changing their rules and bending their rules for the benefit of a few at the expense of many. And it's a broader problem in the commodity markets right now, that they're, quite frankly, they're pretty dysfunctional in the way that they're trading. And that's what you're seeing, in the headline one with crude oil as well, too. I hope that over the next couple of weeks or months, we're going to start.
Nice oversold level now. Here's the heavy support, so we'll wait for a. If we can get a nice.
Markets, that trade stands, and that they won't come back and cancel it because it is inconvenient for other players that we had prices at levels that they didn't want.
Jim Bianco of Bianco Research, Jim Carron of Morgan Stanley, Aaron Brown of PIMCO, to the three of you. Thank you. We heard from Zelensky a little bit earlier this morning. Vladimir Putin right now on a televised meeting with officials saying the following: "We will not let Ukraine become a base for attacks on Russia." The Russian president's words.
This is why gold dropped.
Earlier on this morning, Ukraine Zelensky making an emotional plea to President Biden to do more.
Crazy. This is what I mean, you see. This is, nothing's reliable at the moment because of all this world news. This is where you've got to keep your ear to the ground. There's always a reason why something moves.
To be the leader.
But now gold is sat on some heavy support, like 26.
Here's Bloomberg.
Some buys in. If we can buy the dip on this. I'm gonna look for 30 pips. I could drop a little bit more, but we've got a bit of room for drawdown. So we've got 15 minutes to go till the end of the stream. It's been a successful stream. Like I say, we're over $1,000 for the day, trading the London Open and New York Open retail sales, President Zelensky talking, NY Open, and we're just going to see if this housing market, which is even less significant than ever before now, as we just heard Putin is talking as well.
We've had a very, very abnormal honeymoon Goldilocks period.
First available on the Bloomberg terminal, then
And we're going to see now whether we're going to get a bounce on gold.
front row, the best seats in the house for business's greatest minds.
Our size build up, you see. If we're going to be a re-entry and get something on this.
Of vaccines, Pfizer vaccine specifically neutralize the virus, but not as efficiently, because various studies showing that reduction up to 40-fold, meaning that a third dose is a must for it to successfully neutralize the variant. What we don't know is still that what are the effects of mix and
Got a bull break on NAS. Bull break on NAS. Okay, let's get to NAS. Let's have a look.
from this mix and matching in
Back to that.
neutralizing Omicron, because as we know, many parts of the world use different types of vaccines, and that would be
Beautiful.
data to look at. It will be also great to look at, because majority of the studies done uses a small sample number, and most of the time when you translate it to real world, the data changes. So it will be really good to look at large scale data of the ability of
Done. We're out. In and out on there. We got £30. We got $45. $45 on the buy on NAS. That's how quickly you can trade these signals in and out.
that all of the vaccines which are designed with spike in mind still works.
So
Using a different receptor other than ACE2. None of the vaccines will work.
NAS.
So I think that is the best news
Bigger.
we got in all these studies which came recently, the past couple of days.
Perfect. That's how you got to use these as bonus trades, bonus setups. Look at it pushing up. You could have held, of course you could. You can do all that if you want. Say, who tells you you have to hold? Who tells you you have to sell? Nobody. Or people who think they know better than you. You know, there's no set rules, like I say. All about taking some money, being green, staying lean. And now we're 78. I would look to take a sell on when we get to the RSI there.
Of my niche, I am addressing the President Biden. You are the leader of the niche of your great nation. I wish you.
When it gets to the second level, plus 85. Now, now's a dangerous time.
Leader of the world means to be the leader of peace.
A deeply emotional plea from a wartime president before Congress in the last hour.
Beautiful. Look at that push up on NAS.
Asking for more
Signal was bang on, but got me $50. I'm happy with that.
brink of default with $2 bond payments coming due today. Fitch Ratings saying the following: the payment in local currency of Russia's US
Waiting
dollar
for
euro bond
gold. I
coupons
just
on
took
March 16
long
today
gold.
if it were to occur, constitute
Another 28, another $35 on gold.
For more, want to bring in Damien Sasser. Damien, you and I have talked about two issues all week. One was this one, what currency would they try and pay it in? And two, what...
There's the little pullback. I just took 35 on that little rebound. Let's see if we can get another.
And Jonathan, that's exactly what the Russian finance minister.
We're 1178 now.
He's trying to make payments in dollars, but because
RSI 31 is going to creep back into that zone. Right.
Can't do so. So what they've tried to do is create these Type C accounts, which investors can open in order to take receipt of funds. But again, these are Russian accounts that are effectively blocked from doing any transaction. So you couldn't get your dollars out of Russia anyway. So far be it for me to decide whether or not a best effort case on the part of Russia to make payment constitutes a default, given the logjam we're seeing. That's not my call, but for all intents and purposes, if you just look at other Russian corporates like GTLK, March 10th, they had a coupon payment of what, I think 14 million owed. They finally just made payment today. So, Russian corporates like Gazprom, like Rosneft, Russian railways, they are making payments to their dollar creditors. As it stands, no one has defaulted. But the key element here is they want to see their central bank reserve assets unblocked in order for them to start doing that. And I just don't see that happening, especially after Zelensky's case today in front of Congress.
Break was triggered. Yes, it was indeed.
Repatriations that have come hand in hand with that.
Damien, traditional metrics just don't apply anymore. Typically, we'd think about ability to pay or willingness to pay. On the ability to pay, they're saying they have the ability, they just can't access the money.
He's right.
Reserves have been sanctioned. On the willingness, they're telling us this morning they're trying. And still, the end investor doesn't get the cash.
Yeah, well, I mean, willingness takes on a whole different meaning when you're in this environment, right, Jonathan? Willingness might very well mean they need to pull out of Ukraine in order for their, central bank assets to be unfrozen so that they can actually make payments and return to the international community. That is not happening, and it's certainly not happening anytime soon, and it's certainly, in Jonathan, in my mind, not happening within the 30-day grace period.
All these talks continue between Russia and Ukraine. Another headline from Ukraine calling for a ceasefire, a withdrawal of Russian troops at the same time. Talks, I'm told earlier this morning, Damien, maybe a breakthrough on the issue of neutrality. And China came out the gate.
Yeah.
And we got a massive lift. That verbal intervention, walk through it for me. How important was that step that we got? Just a couple of words will basically do what we need to do.
Well, Liu He, who, as you know, runs the Financial Stability Board in China, it's the highest-ranking economic committee, basically addressed all four major concerns held by foreign investors in China. I mean, they addressed the property sector, they addressed the crackdown on big tech.
On that heavy support now, look at that.
Here in the U.S., they addressed stability in capital markets by hitting on all four of those buttons all at the same time. They'd never done that before. So yes, it is significant, but at the end of the day, there's no conditions attached. There's no policies attached to that. We don't know how China is going to create additional stability in the
RSI is coming back in for another sell, possibly breaks his zone. Here's our heavy support, where we can load some more buys in the counter, go for more sells, go with the trend. We've got no positions open at the moment. All good. Taken 25-30 trades.
I don't want to say plunge protection team again, Jonathan, but
yeah, well,
it smells a lot like that.
I was thinking that this morning. Damien, just quickly, what do you think's easier? To forecast the Chinese equity market or crude? Which one?
Oh my God, I think the Chinese equity market is probably a little bit easier. I mean, crude, again, I said this on the record before, that is a man's contract. I stay away from them.
Here we go. Should we get to a man right now? Javier Blas.
33 trades, sorry. 33 trades with 2 losses today, so that's good.
And now we're looking at 100.
Can I not talk about the Chinese equity market
We can do that instead. We can do that instead. Talk about crude, Javier.
Crude, things have changed since the last 10 days. One is COVID in China, and we are beginning to see...
Have a look at oil, actually. So, yeah, I love to trade this, as you all know.
And that is really spooking the oil market. Also, the potential of an Iran nuclear...
Some cheeky signals on this as well. Even this one. Good. Oh, yeah, it was 100. So that was a win. A win. A win, that was a win. So we had 4 nice winners on our signals here. 5 for this one, 6 for this one. Perfect. Again, if you just go for that optimum 100, 10 pips, don't be greedy. Then that 1, 2, even that one. Going up down there, look, for 100.
Javier, just quickly in about 30 seconds if you can, given the new price limits on, say, the LME on nickel, how messy is it, and how long will it take to sort out because of just that, their new rules?
Well, it's going to take a
Great wins on
few
oil.
days. I will not be surprised that we are a full week, all the days hitting the limits. But the LME is trying to widen the price limits at the moment. Is only 5%, and the LME is trying to increase that so we can reach a market price in a fewer days that otherwise will take. If not, it's going to take probably at least a week.
Jim Bianco of Bianco Research with some strong words, strong thoughts on this topic. Javier, great to catch up, buddy. The harder job versus, say, Damien Sassa, who just has to work out what constitutes a default on Russian debt if they pay and it doesn't reach the investors. I think it's pretty complex all round. Damien, Javier, thank you. The President of the United States, 11:45. He will deliver remarks on Ukraine. Look out for that. I want to get you some sector price action. Here's Kriti Gupta.
Yeah, good morning, John. Let's see a pretty broad rally this morning. You are seeing a lot of green on the screen. The only sector in the red is going to be those utilities, financials, information technology on the top. And you can see a lot of that has to do with higher yields in anticipation of the Fed later today, but also information technology really thriving off of those comments from China. You just talked to Damien about it. The idea that more capital liquidity is being brought into the system, which of course affects those supply chains, semiconductor stocks, Apple, Microsoft, those are all helping the bid today. That being said, let's talk about what's moving to the downside. And that, of course, is going to be your defense stocks. Lockheed Martin is a major move to the downside. As we know, that in the past couple of weeks, we've seen those defense stocks really rally. But today, Lockheed Martin actually getting some reporting that the Pentagon is only going to increase their F-35 purchases by 61%.
Hold some nice support though. Heavy support.
Potential talks between Russia and Ukraine pressuring that sector, John.
Going to break this and then continue on the downward trend extension. Or are we going to get this pushed back up? What?
As they invade another country, and the leader of the other country is pleading for help from the United States. We'll hear from the president a little bit later. A lot more on that trading diary next.
He's a Putin fighting for sovereignty. See if RSI is going to creep back to that neutral zone for us.
Bloomberg has enhanced search on the terminal to deliver what you need when you need it. Now, you can simply type phrases in everyday English in the command line. Compare financials. Find people. Analyze markets. You can enter phrases or ask questions. What do you want to know today? Ask a question or visit SearchGo to find answers now.
Crypto, you have a world of young people that want their own financial system and their own culture.
Still ranging, still waiting for this next move. Had a move up, move down. Now, are we going to get a break below, or is this heavy support? Hold. The end of our stream. We've got 3 minutes to go. See if this news does anything. It's medium impact anyway. I usually like this housing index one. And obviously, usually with gold, you would go the reverse. So if it's bad news, we'd buy, vice versa. Again, nothing's a given at the moment, so just be careful of that. But I just want to, I'm live, I might as well just watch the result and see. So I'm really waiting for the buy on gold, for the blue zone form as well now. So we'll get out of trades before the Fed decision. Here we go, look.
On Ukraine, 11:45 Eastern. We'll take that for you. Russia's coupon payments on $2 bonds due today. Plus, it's a big week for central banks. The Fed kicking it off. A rate decision at 2 p.m. A news conference shortly after that. Then it's the Bank of England's turn, alongside the...
God. Yep.
ECB, we'll hear from Lagarde, and finally rounding out the week with decisions from the Bank of Russia
and
the Bank of Japan. From New York, this was the countdown to the open. This is Bloomberg.
Got a minute to go, guys. Let's see if this moves anything or not. If it, like I say, we'd like it to be worse than expected, so we get a little boost. Like I say, I don't know how much, predicted to be 81, 82, you know, with everything's kicking off, like I say, but anything can help. RSI is back to 37, it's pretty good. Hitting that resistance, going to break this minor resistance, form this leg, break the trend line, break resistance. Here's where we could get to resistance. Could be higher, you know, long term, but could get a pullback and then continue up. Let's see how this news goes. 10 seconds. US30 will go the way, so it's good news. Look, better than expected, is it? Or is it worse than expected? Go, it is worse than expected. So there you go. 79, 1.1. So the housing 79. So that should move gold and US30. Let's have a look.
Venue for blockchain enterprise for crypto. It's not the Wyoming way to sit around and wait for change. We want that independence, we want that freedom, we want that individuality. And that's a common theme that brings together bipartisan support for this in Wyoming.
We want to make sure that people understand, especially...
There's your housing news, US30, due for another correction. Like I say, it's almost like a double top now. See in the pattern. Such a big bull run. All this news, you can see it's found support, retest, that's bull signal. I would drop. We're going to get this kind of level. We're going to come back to our trend line. Support level. RSI 51, coming into the zone. This is looking good.
Hear from leading economists,
30.
policymakers, and industry experts via live and on-demand webinars, only from Bloomberg. Start exploring to see what's moving the markets. Visit Bloomberg.com/webinars.
Upload. News as well. $100 up at the moment.
Pepsi's Number Fever campaign in the Philippines has probably gone down in history as one of the biggest.
Nice, going to hit that level. Brilliant. Out of that trade there, we got £84. We got $110 on the gold buy on that house. Good. Nice. The stream on. So there you go. So yeah, thanks for joining me again, as always. We continue looking for buys on gold, as you can see, and we're going to be looking for sells on US30. Keep watching those. Trade safe, everybody. We've had a nice successful session, and we'll be back again for another live stream. Keep watching the world news, and like I say, if you want to join the group, then come to us at www.mohawkforex.com, and all the information on how to join and have the team mentor you, so you learn the art of true scalping, fundamentals, always using price action, along with our unique system which you see here before you. Thanks for joining me, and take care, and I'll see you on the next live stream.